Why Do Boys Make Podcasts podcast. I'm your host this week, Fitzy, and I sit 2 games above all others on the standings. Hold up, Corby, before we get started, can you turn my volume up real quick?
Yeah, you're good.
Thanks, man. I always appreciate you on the 1s and 2s on the audio. How you feeling this week?
Hi. I'm doing all right. I'm a little spooked, it's almost Halloween, it's spooky season. And I'm a little spooked about the events that happened this week with my matchup with Chris. So
yeah,
I'm okay.
Yeah, it's Hollow Weekend. Let's see if the Grim Reaper comes out to play. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it, Corby. Let's talk about what happened last week. And we're going to start with Chris P taking on Adam. And I'll start things off here. Corby, I can't believe we had Collin on the pod last week, and we didn't reference the fact that we had Commander Shepard taking on the Reapers. Right. I mean, the coin was the only one to realize what was happening here. I honestly felt ashamed because everyone who's alive picked Adam, but yeah, the coin picked Chris, and Chris pulled it out.
Guess who wins? Commander Shepard wins.
Right.
Great. Yeah, that was awesome. To me, a very fun upset. Because I thought Adam was going to absolutely obliterate Chris.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reason we all picked Adam, right? But listen, when Commander Shepard was selecting their players this week, it was pretty clear they didn't do Mike Davis's loyalty mission, because that guy has looked way older than the 28 years old than he is when he does actually play. But the Reaper comes back this week, reloaded with 2 quarterbacks, 2 quality wide receivers, and James Robinson to boot that were all on the bench last week. So Chris didn't quite close the mass relay on Adam here.
Next up, we've got Chris Cloud versus me. Everybody picked me. The coin picked Chris Cloud, and Chris Cloud gets the victory. I'm embarrassed. I'm sad, and I'm lost. I don't want to take anything away from Chris Cloud's victory. Well-deserved victory, right? Okay, AJ Dillon scores less points than your quarterback 2 and Ramondre Stevenson, who wasn't even active. I deserve to lose this. And not only that, for some reason, I talked myself into a Monday Night Miracle with fucking DJ Dallas. He had 1.33 points. I would like to just give a few shout outs to the guys on the waiver wire that I could have played, and I would have won. Russell Gage, 16.7 points. Nelson Aguilar, every time I play you, you put up 0. This week you had 13.1. Brandon Bolden, who I dropped. I dropped him to pick up BJ Dallas, and he scored 19.9 points. Everyone's favorite Jalen Rager, 11.88 points. Khalif Raymond, who was just dropped, 17.6 points. Of course, my favorite, the Lizard King, Alan Lazard, 17 points even. DJ Dallas, thank you.
DJ Dallas. Well, only the coin believed in the mass holes here. And, well, both teams are now 4-3, as is half of the league. I love to see parity, but just like my boy Scott Hansen says, let's show you how we got here. Chris took a couple of zeros, but he had 21 points from his defense. And he outscored your extra flextra spot, the spot where you can start a tight end or a flex guy. He outscored you by 23.5 because he scored 23.3. And like you said, AJ Dillon puts up negative 0.2. Whew. The fantasy gods did everything they could, Corby, to keep the league close this week. And this was one of those clear signs that there is a divine hand that guides all fantasy teams to fortune or to ruin. Next up, another Chris, Colby, taking on Tyler. Chris gets the win. Your 2 co-hosts both picked Chris, and both Collin and the coin were on Tyler. Chris survives without Nick Chubb, and Tyler falls without his core of Minnesota players who score touchdowns, with Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen and sometimes Alexander Madison. Here's my big note from the week, though, real promising for Tyler. Austin Hooper, he broke out this week for 6.2 points. I mean, he clearly has a special connection there with Case Keenum. Corby, do you think week 8 is the week that he finally cracks double digits for the first time this year?
You know, Fitzy, that's a great question. I think this is the week. I think we should keep rolling with Austin Hooper, baby. I'm all aboard. Let's go.
Austin Spooker on all weekend.
Oh, God. On my end, I don't really have much to add. It's a good week for Chris to not have Darren Waller and Chubb and pull off a victory. Derrick Henry threw the same amount of touchdowns as both of Tyler's quarterbacks combined. It's really sad for Tyler that the D. Williams duo had D- weeks. Pat Mahomes has 9 picks this season, tied for the most in the league. That's negative 18 points in this league. That's a lot of lost points.
Yeah.
And that's a reason that he keeps losing, maybe. Next up, we've got Taylor versus Fitzy, where Taylor got absolutely shellacked by Fitzy, and everybody picked Fitzy. Taylor, don't forget to set your lineup.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot much more to add here. Like you said, it was a shellacking. Taylor started Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott in a negative game script with Miles Sanders healthy to start the week. But they both outscored Chubba Hubbard, so it can't be that bad, can it? Yeah. I think my Tim Patrick run is finally over after I decided to start him 2 weeks in a row. Well, if anybody else wants Teddy Bridgewater's third wide receiver, hit me up. Next up, we had Mike B taking on Eric. We had Corby and Collin on the right side of history with Eric, and myself and the coin both picked Mike. Now, last week I asked, am I crazy to pick Mike here? And I really don't think I was. I mean, he put up the second most points that he has all year. Eric had CJ Uzama and Michael Carter combined for over 40. Like, if you take away the deep bomb to Uzama and give Mike a full garbage time comeback from Zach Wilson, this matchup completely flips. And Eric, this isn't slander on your team, okay? You scored the most points of everyone last week. You should feel good about that. But not every Sunday is National Tight End Day, all right? Things are going to come crashing back down for your boy CJ.
Eric, great win. I got nothing to add on that. Mike, you would have beaten 7 teams in the league this week. But of course, you had to play the top scorer of the week. That is your fantasy football luck. However, if you had just played Daniel Jones and Bryan Edwards, you could have won.
Yeah, I want it to be nice here. But if I was managing that team, we'd be talking about a different story here.
Finally, here we've got Brandy versus Collin, where Brandy picks up the W. Everybody picks Brandy. The coin picks Collin. Brandy, you continue to get great performances from your studs in Hollywood and Kamara. And Tannehill comes through a little bit, but you got to work on that quarterback too. That's the problem. Darnold is awful.
Yeah. No, he got benched for an XFL guy. So that's that. But yeah, Brandy gets the big win. You know, whether or not the QB2 is in question, big win here. Myles Gaskin proves that the ATLians are not for real. And I still believe in this team. But speaking of running backs named Miles, Mr. Sanders on Collin's team goes down in this matchup. Collin, I actually think that your team might be running into trouble here too. This is not just because I know you're not going to be a guest on the pod next week and I'm feeling safe that I can't be confronted anymore, but you might be in trouble, my friend. All right, folks. We're moving on to a new segment this week. New segment alert, everybody. It's a new one called Corys Corner, where Corby gets to express himself every week or ask a couple questions. First, Corby, do you have any questions for me this week?
Yeah, Fitz. You know, I've been dying to know, why do you still have Brandon Ayuk and Trey Sermon on your team?
So I'm a big believer in analytics, but I also believe in film study. And Kyle Shanahan, if you're listening, Trey Sermon simply is a better running back than Eli Mitchell. And Brandon Ayuk is a good receiver. Your petty actions are crippling not just your own NFL football team, but also my fantasy team. What, you think you know better than everybody else? Trey Sermon was drafted in the 3rd round by you. You traded up to get him. Eli Mitchell was a special teams guy you took in the 5th round. Who cares? And Brandon Ayuk, he's got young Devontae Adams skills. And the only saving grace for the torture that I'm going through right now is the fact that I'm going to get these guys both at a discount next year. Kyle Shanahan, man, you're killing me. I believe in the film, Corby. I believe that the talent will win out, even if it's not till week 16 when I've been eliminated.
I find it curious that the top 1%er in the league is also just clamoring for more and more and more.
You can never have enough fantasy points, Corby. That's my motto. Next up on Corby's Corner, Corby, I want to pick your brain on something. You're a big movie buff. And with the return of big-time blockbusters like James Bond and Dune, are you excited to get back into the theaters and seeing these films?
No, not really. It's like James Bond is probably going to be fine, but I'll get to it eventually because the last few have been Skyfall was good, but the one after that was just dog shit. I just don't care enough anymore. Like, I don't care about a background story with James Bond. I just want him to go on a secret mission and fuck people up. And for Dune, it's like I couldn't care. I just couldn't care less. Now that there's going to be a second part, like, I'm not going to invest 2.5 hours now, and then maybe in 4 years I'll get a payoff that it was worth my 2.5 hours that I used 4 years prior. So no.
Man, Corby, have you ever seen the Lord of the Rings movies?
Yes.
You have? What?
I don't remember anything from them.
So you didn't think they were worth it?
I don't know if they're worth it because I don't remember because I was so young.
And I'm gonna now reveal to everyone one of the conversations we had before the podcast. So very clearly, Lord of the Rings overrated. Dune, I couldn't care less. What movie did you recommend to me just before the pod started?
Misery.
And the other one starring
Jennifer's Body.
Jennifer's Body, the horror film starring Megan Fox from 2009.
Yes.
This is why I'm clearly not a movie buff. I only know the big titles, I'm a big normie when it comes to this stuff. So everyone should follow Corby on Letterboxd for the real stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's a good teaser for what Corby's Corner will continue to grow into. A place to air our dirty laundry. Speaking of dirty laundry, let's get into next week's picks. Corby, we're going to start with you taking on Tyler. You had a lot of, feelings, I guess you could say, about your last week, your performance there. Talk to me about what you think is going to happen this week with Tyler.
So in here, we've got a seafood showdown. We've got to be careful because Joe Mixon is going to be mixing up the batter on the family fish fry. You know what I'm saying? Dalvin might be cooking up a W for Tyler's team. Fucking, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to take Tyler here. I don't particularly feel good. I don't know. I'm having conflicting feelings about my team for some reason.
The coin is with the manager, Tyler. And Corey, my theme for this week, I also have a theme this week, I should say, and it's dogs. Tyler's got a bunch of them, real grinders. He's got Dalvin Cook, Mark Ingram, the Buffalo defense, a bunch of dogs. So I'm sorry, Corby, but I think this is the week you drop out of the top two and Tyler puts you both firmly at 500.
Next matchup here, we've got Chris P versus Chris Colby. We've got a Chris battle, part 2. Which of these competitors will be christened with the W? I'm feeling a high-scoring affair this week. We've got some question marks, though. Is Darren Waller back? Will Rondale Moore contribute more than 5 points? Chris P, I like the players in your matchup this week, so I'm going to take you.
Yeah, I had the same notes here. Chris Bull, number 2. Chris Colby is the underdog, and the Cleveland Browns mascot is a dog, making Nick Chubb the biggest big dog of them all. I think Chris Colby evens the Chris Bull head-to-head record and ekes out a win here. I'm sorry, Commander Shepard. The coin agrees. Chris Colby all the way. Next up, we've got Mike taking on Adam. And Mike B, don't fear the Reaper. Listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not even saying that it's likely to happen. I just mean that this could happen. Mike still has a shot at making the playoffs here. He's only 3 wins back from being in a 7-way tie for second place. And if he would just start Daniel Jones, he could be 3-4 right now. Honestly, I don't hate Adam's team. I just believe that when the 11th ranked team and the 12th ranked team play head to head, anything could happen. Well, I mean, almost anything, because if Mike wins and he does so by less than 145 points, Adam's still going to be ahead of him in the standings. But Mike's the underdog. Give me the dog, Corby. It's Mike.
I feel like Mike is going to take this matchup pretty seriously because it's Adam. So I think that Mike can win, and I think that he's going to try to, but I still think that Adam's team is going to win. So I'm taking Adam here.
And the coin is with you on Adam.
In our next matchup, we've got Taylor versus Eric, the battle of the metalheads. Which of these competitors will be headbanging their way to a W this week? For my money, give me Eric, because like Metallica post-80s, Taylor's team is dog shit.
I couldn't agree more, Corby. Taylor's team is dog shit. And that's why the dog picks are going against him. Here's a quick stat for you. Eric has won every matchup in which Cordero Patterson has scored a touchdown and is in his starting lineup. Taylor has to start Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott again this week. So it's a round of Eric for the podcast. The coin is with us. Eric all the way here. Next up, we've got myself taking on Brandy. I'll start, and I want to start by addressing Brandy directly here. Brandy, you're currently projected to outscore me at almost every position except for quarterback. Corby, I found a stat here. You would expect a quarterback to score roughly 25% of their points in every quarter. Now, sure, there's some that frantically mount comebacks, but none more so than Jalen Hurts. He has scored not 30, not 35, but 42% of all of his fantasy points in the fourth quarter this year.
It's crazy.
And I don't think he's going to be needed against the Lions. The dog pick here is Dan Campbell's underdog Lions, keeping my quarterback from needing to run so much. So, Brandy, congrats on ending the longest active winning streak in the league. I'm picking you to win here.
This one here, I'm going to say is a Stardew Farmer off. I don't fucking know. Which of these gamers will be like the Prairie King and bring a win home? I think Tim Patrick is taking a backseat with Judy returning. So, like you said earlier, send him on his way like Andy sent Woody on his way. I'm giving the gold star power up to Brandy. Brandy, if Donald plays like shit against the Falcons, you are in big fucking trouble.
Definitely. And the coin is kind of feeling what you're feeling there, Corby. The coin is rolling with me. Final matchup of the week, Collin taking on Chris Cloud. And I'm not even going to go with the dog pun here. No dog jokes, because Chris Cloud simply has this one in the bag. Collin doesn't want to get overspent on a 1 week rental quarterback. We know this about him. He's not going to be bidding a ton. And Chris hasn't reset his lineup yet, but he's probably going to be projected for 50 more points than what you're seeing on the screen right here when he does eventually set it. I don't even think this one's close. Give me Chris in a landslide here, Corby. The coin is picking Collin.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with what the coin is saying. We've got a battle of two people with C's as the first letter in their name. Which of these C men are going to pick up a win this week? I'm feeling a bounce back. My other theme this week is to pick bounce backs. So I'm feeling Collin. I'm feeling he's going to get a bounce back with Austin Eckler back in the lineup. I think he'll be fine.
And with that over, let's jump it over to the bets of the week real quick, Corby. So before we get into this week, quick recap of last week. We asked who will win in fantasy basketball between the two of us. And Corby, you won. You won 8-1. And yeah, I mean, it's a shame that I made this bet the first year that my fantasy basketball team is the worst one in the league. Wouldn't you say, Corby?
Yeah, your team sucks. It's crazy. Like, I don't know anything about basketball still. I watched basketball all year last year. I can't fucking name like half a quarter of the people in the league because I just there's too much.
Let me tell you why you are going to win this year in fantasy basketball. I have won. I don't count the COVID year. It got shut down. I've come in first, third, and first in fantasy basketball. Because I don't have an opinion on fantasy basketball. I just look at what the numbers say and look at what the Yahoo projections say, and I don't develop an opinion, and I just go with that, and I'm good at it. This year I have opinions, and that's really what's going to do me in. So, Corby, keep not watching basketball. Keep not knowing who these players are, and it will serve you well.
We also had a bet on overtime last week. This time, I bet that there was going to be an overtime, and Fitzy bet that there wasn't going to be. And then there wasn't one. So, shit. Okay. Well, now I'm in the hole there. We can also give a quick bum bet update. 2 weeks ago, in Jalen Waddle versus Brian Edwards, we had an update. Waddle scores 2 touchdowns in one game. Last week, Brian Edwards returns the favor with 1, so we're in a 2-1 lockup.
I swear this is the most fun bet because when I was outside listening to Red Zone, or sorry, this was just the single game in London going on. I was listening to that stream like a podcast in my backyard doing yard work. And every time I heard Jalen Waddle touchdown, I went, no, God damn it. like I shouldn't care, but I really do. And when I heard Brian Edwards scored a touchdown, I thought two things. I thought, yay, this bet. And also I started him in the $100 league. I love this fucking bum. I can't quit Brian Edwards, man. I love this guy.
Oh God.
And I think that's a good segue into this week's bets, Corby.
Okay.
I want to start off with a quick peek to this year's total passing leaders, because I sent you a link here.
Yep.
If you sort that by yards per game, you'll notice something. You'll notice that Tom Brady's top of the league, averaging 325 yards per game. You'll notice Matthew Stafford's third with 310. But who's that in second place? Derek Carr with less than a yard less than Brady's at 324.1. So Corby, stat for you. Derek Carr is currently on pace to break Peyton Manning's single season passing yards record. I think Derek Carr might do this. I want you to pick any other quarterback on this list, and I will bet you that Derek Carr has more yards than that quarterback at the end of the season.
Nah, give me Brady. Fuck it.
Brady.
Yeah, I'll take Brady.
TB 1,200 yards this year.
I think he can do it. My first bet here has nothing to do with football. I love these ones. Over under the number of likes on this episode at 4.5.
Oh, easy over. First of all, I influenced that. I like it on both the Why Do Boys Make Podcasts account and my own personal account. So you can baseline 2 in. Easy over on 4.5. I trust our listeners to get us there.
Okay, so if you're gonna get us there with 2 already, give me over under at 5.5.
Still trusting the listeners here. Listeners, you can give me $5 if you just hit the like button. Please. It's as simple as that.
I'll take it at 5.5.
All right, Corby. My next bet here really comes down to the big dogs of the league. I love Nick Chubb and a return from a calf injury. And I think Derrick Henry might be getting tired. I think Nick Chubb has more rushing yards than Derrick Henry this week.
No, he will not.
No
fucking way,
man.
Dude.
Load me up on Nick Chubb.
My other bet here, I've got more total touchdowns. My team versus your team.
Oh boy. Well, I think that I picked against both of these teams this week. So clearly I don't have a strong opinion that either of these teams is going to score a lot of touchdowns. Let me just double check who your starting quarterbacks are this week.
It's Brady and Stafford.
Oh shit, they're going to score a lot of touchdowns, huh?
Maybe.
Yeah, screw it. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns, but not the rest of your team. Their Celts gets it done. Final bet of the week, Corby. You doubled down on this one last week. Let's see if Fitzy can go 3-0 on this. I bet that there will be an overtime game this Sunday.
Are you serious?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't think that there will. Fuck me. That's funny. That's a funny one. Oh my God.
And with bets out of the way, let's dip it over to the mailbag. Starting off, first comment here before we get into the question of the week was Adam, who simply says, "This is slander," which I will quickly make a note that everybody on the pod picked him to win. So I don't know what part of this was slander. Maybe he really believed in Chris P's team. So sorry we picked you, Adam. We'll continue to pick against you in the future.
In our next comment here, we've got Collin. Collin chimes in and says, "If I could meet anyone from history, it would be fighting Jack Churchill. This dude would go into battle with a sword, bagpipes, and a bow during World War II. I want to ask him, did you do it as the staunchest of traditionalists, or were you too afraid to admit you didn't know how to use a gun?"
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good, but I think it's a little premeditated because Collin asked the question. So I like it. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
I'm actually going to go up to an 8. I like this one a lot because Collin decided not to take a historical figure and put a funny scenario around it. He Google searched funny people from history and found one. So just like when he Google searched the mountains of Ararat, he hit us with another one this week. Collin continuing to show he knows how to use the Google machine. Oh, Collin's going to hate that I said all that. But I do like the comment. Next, Chris Colby replies to Collins as if to say, "Thank you for asking the question," and says, "I would like to ask Carl Sagan if there is a universe where I can win a fantasy league." He would just chuckle and evaporate into the cosmos. Before disappearing, he says to me, "You'll be crinkle cut forever, my friend."
I mean, this here, what do you say? Like, he's referencing past work. Now we're getting a storyline, Now we're getting more lore. Like, who is this crinkle cut, I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10.
I really, really do like the crinkle cut storyline. I try not to give out 10s. 10s are for the best of the best. So this is like a 9.5 for me. This is really, really good. It's Carl Sagan evaporating into the cosmos. He built a whole scenario, which I like. Question was very open-ended, but just got to reserve my 10.
To close out, we've got one here from first-time commenter Fitzy963. Only happened 2 hours prior to recording. If I could meet anyone from history, I would want to meet myself in 2013. I would tell my younger self who to draft so I would win in fantasy football every year. And I think that's great. I think that's a very solid answer, Fitzy963. Thank you. I'm gonna give that a 9.
Oh man. I thought this was a 10, Corby. Whoever this Fitzy963 character is clearly not only cares to answer, but of all people in history, he would want just to win fantasy football. A true gamer move.
True.
Which, if my math is correct, with an average score of 9.75, puts Chris Colby at the top, making him our next guest on the podcast. Chris, can't wait to schedule an interview with you. One of the biggest fans, becoming one of the biggest mans to be on the pod. With that, our question of the week this week is going to simply reference the fact that Chris Colby's the only person on the pod, who answered the question who wasn't on the pod last week. Corby, my question for the league this week is, why do you think other people are too afraid to answer the question of the week?
It's a very personal question.
It also leaves a lot of open-endedness. There's this great platform for people to engage with their league mates, and I don't know why people are too afraid to use it. Anyway, folks, that's going to end us this week on the podcast.
But no one wanted to believe.
Do not forget, as always,
Believe they even exist.
subscribe and smash
And when the truth finally dawns, it dawns in fire.
motherfucking like button. Ring the bell as well. My name is Fitzy.
But there's one they fear.
And I'm Corby.
In their tongue,
And gamers,
Dovahkiin,
game
Dragon Ball.
on.